Hello and welcome to week 8 of GHHU 2901 Online Research for College Students. This is our 8th lecture in a series of 10. First up, welcome back. I hoped you had a wonderful spring break, that you were able to take some time away from school, focus on family, work, all the things that make you passionate about your day-to-day life. I know for me it was really great. We visited with some in-laws. There was some vaccinations that occurred. It was actually a pretty great spring break. I want to give us a quick recap from last lecture because I'm really spending some time looking through the discussion board posts and making some comments. But I'm super encouraged about the discussion that you all had about fake news. You probably have gathered this already. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something I think our society needs to address. And I think you all are having a pretty great discussion about it. Way back 2 weeks ago, we talked a little bit about spotting fake news. I gave you all 3 lectures to watch about fake news from experts who spend significant time looking at this and thinking about it. And then you all also played the fake news game. And I think some of you really enjoyed it and kind of went a little far with it. I think it's super impressive that people were getting over 10,000 followers. That game makes you think twice whenever you read anything online. It forces you to think about, why is this being published? I know I've been super skeptical about other sources since I have personally played that game. So, let's jump into week 8. This week, I'm hoping to gear you up for what's due next week. I want to give you enough tools in this week to be able to engage with the content for next week. We're going to talk about the annotated bibliography that's due in week 9. I am hopeful that you will spend some time at least starting the draft of the annotated bib, and then come to me with a draft that then I can give you some comments on. Because the hope is that this is not some big major assignment at the end of the class that you're like, oh my God, 20% of my grade is on this. Rather, I want you to kind of engage with me on this. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's see how much we can get you to improve with thinking about citations and all of that. So, let's talk a little bit about APA. The whole point of learning APA, particularly while you're in college, is to be able to be a part of the conversation that's happening around you. Now, this is a little bit of a loaded phrase. I have a little short video here, just under 2 minutes, just for you to kind of understand what I'm meaning with that phrase.
Imagine that it's 5 p.m. and you haven't looked at your phone since this morning. So you decide to check your notifications. When you check your messages, your friends are already in a heated conversation. A discussion too heated for them to pause and tell you exactly what it's about. You can't even scroll up to read earlier messages because there are just way too many. However, the discussion had already begun long before any of them started texting. No one there is qualified to retrace for you all the steps that had gone before. You read the conversation for a while until you decide that you've caught the gist of the argument. Then you say your point. Someone answers, you reply, another comes to your defense. Another aligns himself against you to either the embarrassment or gratification of your opponent, depending on the quality of your ally's assistance. However, the discussion is endless. After hours of texting, you have to leave. And you do leave, but the discussion still vigorously in progress.
So, I like that video because it talks a little bit about the conversation that goes on around us. Each one of those tweets is kind of representative of a scholarly article. In the scholarly community, that's how we communicate. We go and we publish articles and we say, this person said this, but I think this. Or I agree with what so-and-so said. The whole point is to contribute to the conversation that's going on. And as students, we're gearing you up to be able to, one, understand what's going on in that conversation and some of the technicalities about how to engage in the conversation. That's what APA or MLA or Chicago is really all about. It's about having a standard style or a standard etiquette to engage in these kinds of conversations. As a member of the academic community, because as a student you are a member of the academic community, you're expected to respect the norms and the rituals and the etiquette of what's going on in these circles. This essentially, at a very, very basic level, means you need to avoid plagiarism. That you need to be fair-minded, generous, and accurate in how you're treating other people's ideas, words, data, images, or other work. This doesn't mean you need to agree with what gets published. Plenty of people who engage in these conversations are very adamant that they disagree with someone. You just need to do it in a way that then gets respected, that you're following the etiquette of the style. So, when you're engaging in these kinds of conversations, what actually needs a citation? Because not everything does. Well, if you're borrowing exact words or phrases, exact sections as someone else has written them, if you're reprinting illustrations or charts or borrowing tables from an article, that's going to need a citation. And ideas that originated with others. So say you read an article, and the article says something like, information literacy is a vital skill everyone should learn. Well, I might agree with that idea, but I didn't say it quite like that. So I'm going to cite that and include a reference to it. That just means I'm borrowing an idea from someone else. And it helps to make your argument more credible when you're including these citations. I promise you, as you go through your academic careers, you're going to have people say, that needs a citation. I am in the middle of a lit review, and my professors have put on just about every single sentence I write, include a citation, even for things that I'm kind of like, that's common knowledge. But it makes you more credible as someone engaging in that conversation to say, other people in this conversation have also said this. So, I may have hinted at this. Not everything needs a citation. Your thoughts, your observations, your experiences don't need to be cited unless you've previously published them. There's times where I've published an article or I've presented somewhere and an idea that I've presented on previously comes up. I can put a citation there. Common knowledge doesn't need a citation. 2 + 2 = 4. The earth is round. Things like that do not need a citation. They are just accepted as common knowledge. Folklore is one of those things that I kind of have thought has evolved over time and kind of maybe does need a citation, but it's one of those kind of either-or situations. Common sense, basic shared information in your field does not need a citation. Again, your professors, depending on the class, may say that does, and that's not a bad thing. That just means you need to go back and add the citation. So, here's the thing. APA is one style of citation. That's the one we're going to go over in this class. It's most commonly used in the social sciences, so like psychology, sociology, social work, those kinds of things. Education, librarianship, anything that isn't a hardcore humanities. So things that are like English, film studies, maybe, those are going to use MLA. And there are some similarities, but generally you're going to want to find one of these veins of APA or MLA and stick with it. In this class, we're doing APA just to kind of give you a boot camp to have you understand one of the citation styles. So at a minimum, and this should be 4, you need to know how to use 4 main citations. These are the ones that I think are the most important and are going to be the things that you're going to cite more and more and more. Websites, books, chapters in a book, and then articles. So let's look at what the APA citations look like for these 4 things. Here's what a website citation looks like. And I think we've covered this a little bit with evaluating information. When you cite a website, you need to make sure it passes the CRAP test and that it is a truly valuable source. However, citing websites is something that people do, and it's something that you do have a place to use citations for websites in your paper. So, couple things about the anatomy of this citation. You see, we put last name, and then there's a comma, and then the first initial and middle initial. Notice that we're not listing out the person's full name. We're just using first initial and middle initial. That's it. Ooh. Then we put a period after that one, and then in parentheses, year, and then that's a comma, then the month and the date, parentheses, period. The title of the page, so this goes in italics. This is going to be important to remember. And then the site name, and then the URL. One way I like to think about this is a citation is 4 sentences, meaning the last name, and then there's a period, the time it was published, and then there's the period, the title of the page, and then there's the period, and then the site name, and then there's the period. So here's some examples. And I picked these 2 because I want to show you a couple pieces of this. Here you see we have the person's last name and first initial. The middle initial was not listed in the source. And then we have the period. And then we have the year, and then the month, and then the day, and then the period. Notice I didn't put 23rd, I put 23. Because we don't use RD or first or any of that. Then I put the title of the page right here. It's in italics. There's something about the title of this page that should bother just about everyone because it's a title. Only the first word here is capitalized. And that's how it should be. And then we have the title of the site. This site is Medium. And then I have the period again. And then I have the URL. So here's another citation. Do you notice anything wrong with this citation? Well, one thing is wrong, but another thing needs an explanation. So here I'm citing a CDC source, something from the Centers of Disease Control, or Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So this source was authored by the CDC. And what I did was I listed them out, and I included them as the name. I have 2017 here, but I don't have the month or the date. That's because it wasn't listed on the source. I don't know what month or day it was published, and I'm not going to put January 1 or anything like that. You just don't put it in there. If there was no date published at all on the source and you had no idea when it was published, A, you should ask yourself, does this pass the CRAP test? And 2, you would put N.D. That stands for no date. And then we have the title of the page, health expenditures. Here's where our mistake comes in, right here with the E. This should be lowercase. Because if we notice, just like the example I have up here, or the template, the second, or the only word in the title that's capitalized is the first word. Now, when we get to books, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but for websites, there we go. And then I have the URL. For all of these examples, I have this Purdue OWL link. This is something that you're going to use a lot. Purdue OWL is a free resource from Purdue University that's online. and just ignore this right here, but they give you templates, and they give you templates for websites. And here's the template for the website. They also go into pretty good detail about what should be included and what shouldn't. So Purdue OWL is a great reference source for when you're looking for your citations. So that's the website citation. There's your template. Fairly straightforward. The book citation is actually one of the most important citations you can use. This citation is really the bones for all of the other citations. This is the one that you need to know how to do. So, the book citation, similar to the website, right? We have the author listed here. Same idea with the period, and then we have the year of publication. Same idea with the period, and then we have the title of the book. Couple things to note. One, it is in italics, just like it was for the website. But two, we have the first part of the title, the first word is capitalized. And then the second part of the title is also capitalized. When you're looking at a book, many books have this first part of the title, second part of the title. They have a semi or a colon in the middle. What you do is, this is called the title. Yeah. This is the title, and this is the subtitle. So what you do is you capitalize the first word of the title, the first word of the subtitle, and any proper nouns. So proper nouns are things like names of people, right? Abraham Lincoln. That would be capitalized. America, that would be capitalized. But things that aren't proper titles, things that aren't names, would not be capitalized. And then we have a period here in the citation. And then we end with the publisher's name. This has been a change from APA 6 to 7 in that you do not need to put where the book was published. You just need to put who published it. So here's an example where we have the author's last name, first initial. Then we have the year, and then we have the title of the book, Alexander the Great, A Life and Legend, and then Yale University Press for who published it. I've capitalized the G here because I've actually noticed that's the standard for Alexander the Great, is to capitalize the G. Now, this is just one type of book. This is the simplest book citation you can have. We're going to talk about chapters in an edited book in a minute, but the Purdue OWL website is going to be very helpful. Very few books have just one author. If you notice, on some of these examples, we have this, where we have author, comma, first initial, middle initial, and with the ampersand, author, first initial, middle initial. That's how we do it. If I had 3 authors, I would do author 1, comma, author 2, comma, ampersand, author 3. And so forth and so forth. Similar rules come into play when we do articles, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But the Purdue OWL page will be useful. This will be a page you will look at quite frequently because many different kinds of books, right? So there's translations of books. There's books that are more than just the first edition. There's books that have been edited. There's multi-volume works like encyclopedias. So the Purdue OWL website lists out these different kinds of books for you to use and for you to model as a template. So chapters in books. This is something that is really common in academia, and I don't know if you've had any experience with. For example, I've published a chapter in a book. What happens is an editor goes out and says, hey all, I'm writing a book, it's going to be on this topic. Send me a proposal for a chapter. And then all the scholars out there who are interested say, here's my 2 pages on what I want to write. It goes through kind of a peer review process. And then, it's accepted or rejected. It goes, the people write it if it's accepted. It then goes back to the editor and eventually gets published. The way you cite these things is different than a regular book because the chapter is so important. So here we have our authors, just like we have, and then the title or the year of publication, just like we mentioned before. And then we kind of transition into, and then the title of the chapter. So then this is what these authors wrote. And then we have the editors. So the editors are the people who put the call out, who said, hey, I'm writing this book, send me your chapters, and they culminated everything. And then the same idea, if you had more than 1 or 2, you can list them out with the ampersand. And then you make this little notation, which is kind of weird. You put EDS, that stands for editors. And here's an even weirder thing. You put a comma in here, not a period. So then, very similar to the book citation, right? Title of the book, capitalize the first word of the subtitle. Same idea, italics. And then this is also unusual to this citation. You put PP and then the pages of the chapter. PP generally means that you're using more than 1 page. So if you're just using, if the chapter or the quote or whatever was just on 1 page, you would just put P dot. But in this case, you use the 2 P's and then the pages of the chapter. So you're going to put a range, right? Like 144 to 163. And then there's our period. And then you put who published it, the publisher. So here's an example. And we have one author who wrote this, Armstrong, in 2019. Mallory and Character, that would be the title of the chapter. And then it was published in, and then do you see how this is a little different? How we have the initials right up front? Very different. And then EDS right there. And then the title of the work in italics, and Mallory is a proper name or a proper noun because it's a name. And then we have the page range, and then we have the published. This again has a corresponding reference link to OWL. And there we are, right here. So, same idea, pulling it right from OWL. And our last citation template is the article citation template. This one will be the one you will use the most because all of your professors basically say, send me some scholarly articles, right? So this is the one that you use. Here I've listed out what it looks like when I have 3 authors. It's kind of hard to see, but there should be a space right there. There is a space there. It's just hard to see. So, the basic citation, the basic template for an article. You have your authors, and again, in this case I have 3, but you could have more than 3. Then we have the title of the article. This is the same idea as the title of the book. If you have a title and a subtitle, you capitalize the first word of the title and the first word of the subtitle and any proper nouns. And then you have the title of the periodical, and then a period. And then you put the title of the periodical. Now these things are often like the Journal of so-and-so, right? These are the journal's title. Then you put a comma and then the volume number. So these are usually pretty easy to spot on the library databases, which I will show you in a moment. If it doesn't have it, because not everything does, you would just put the number there. but most citations are going to have the volume number and the issue number. So what you do is you put the issue number in parentheses, and then comma, and then the pages, and then the DOI. So DOI is a cool thing. It's kind of like an ISBN. It's a unique number that corresponds to the article. Not everything has a DOI, but more and more things do. So you're going to want to keep an eye out for that. Here's an example of an article citation. I didn't include the DOI, which I probably should have if it was available. Many times the older articles just don't have them. So here I have the author's name, I have the year, I have the title of the article, I have the title of the periodical, that's in italics, along with the volume number. The issue number is inside of the parentheses, and that's not italicized. And then I have the page range, 5 through 13. If I have the DOI, I would put it right here. If I had a URL, I could put it right here. But in this case, I don't have either. Always use the DOI before you use the URL. If you don't have either of those, you can leave it blank. But I promise you, your professors are going to start saying, hey, where's the DOI? So be prepared to justify if you don't include the DOI or the URL. And again, Purdue OWL, very helpful. I use this a lot. Here are our examples. Again, the article in a print journal. That's why it doesn't have the DOI, because it would be a print. But if I could find it online, I should include it. Here's another example, same idea. We have the author's names, the year, the first part of the article title, the second part of the article title. So first word's capitalized, first word of the subtitle is capitalized. Then we have the name of the journal, and if you notice, all the major words here are capitalized. The volume number, the issue number, the page range, and then the DOI. Similar if you would use a magazine. If you're using a newspaper article, vaguely similar as well. But I'm going to be honest with you, these are not things people memorize. They're going to pull from here. They're going to look at the Purdue OWL or the manual for APA and then use that as a template. They're also going to use the citations from the databases. So what I've just shown you is super tedious, right? It's a pain to learn, it's a pain to teach, it's a pain to use. And we do live in the information age, right? So can't computers give us citations? Well, many times they can. You just got to know where to find them and how to use it, and then how to edit them. So library website, right? I go to library.highlands.edu, and I can search Galileo, and I'm just going to put information literacy. I'm going to be honest, that shouldn't have happened. Let's try it again. There we go. If that ever happens, you can open in a new tab incognito, so then you would not need to enter the Galileo password, because we are in the process of transferring everything over to that login system. But incognito works too. I ran my search. Here's Galileo. Just like I showed you all in previous weeks, we can limit this to scholarly journals right there. And now I'm being brought back everything that's a scholarly journal. I can also do full text and only see things that I can access right now. And I'm just looking for something and not necessarily looking for anything in particular. this one I do want to show you. And let's look at this one as well. So I'm starting with number 5. There's a reason why I wanted to start with this one. So if I go to Cite here, because these databases I showed you all have like a Cite button, pops up, and now I can scroll on down to APA, and I'm looking for the 7th edition. So based on what we had talked about, just look at this for a minute and tell me if you can see anything wrong with this. There's tons of authors here, right? But they've done what we've said with commas and all of that. When we look at the title, we notice a little bit of an issue. Because the first word of the title, first word of the subtitle, and proper nouns need to be capitalized. In this case, the first word of the title is capitalized, but the first word of the subtitle is not. So if I wanted to use this, and you can copy and paste this to use in your reference list, you're going to want to make sure to correct this right here and capitalize it. As someone who reviews these things on the regular and looks at student papers, this is one of the more common giveaways that a student has just pulled the citation from a database and not looked at it, because these kinds of mistakes persist. So don't be that student. Look through these and make those small edits. I do also want to point out that if I just took this and I copied it and I opened up a Word document, it's a little funky, right? Because I have this outline going on over here. You can probably see how some of this is gray and some of this is not. And that just does not look good. So, what I like to do, and really what I think everyone needs to do here, you can fix this. See here? I just changed the font and the size to make that correct. And then what I'm doing is I'm changing the font to be black. And then there is... hang on, gotta make this a little bigger. Oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, now this is awesome. Okay, so here's what I did. Pasted it in a Word. I highlight what I do. I can click this little button right here. The letter and then the clear all formatting. That's going to turn this into text that then I can edit that doesn't have that gray background. So now I can go in and do what I needed to do, which is 2 things. I need to change that to capitalized, and since I removed all the formatting, I need to make that italicized. Now, I want to go back and look at that article because I don't have a volume issue or volume or an issue number. So let's go back and look. Sure enough, I don't have a volume or an issue number. In these kinds of cases, it's sometimes helpful to actually look at the PDF, just to be sure. And it turns out I do right down here. So the tip off here that this is a volume and an issue number is the parentheses. So this is 108 for the volume number and 3 for the issue number. So just like I looked at before, italicize that. And now here's the thing. I can't remember. Is this a comma? And do I put a period here? So I'm going to go back and look at the OWL APA website. Take a look real quick. And I am looking for a journal Oh, that didn't help. Periodical, so articles and periodicals. And let's see what I have to do. Oh, now I remember. I got to do the comma and I got to do the period. So, comma's there, that's good. And then I put the period. And there we go. So do you see what I did here? I pulled the citation from a database. I removed the formatting from the database. And then I corrected it to match APA style. Let's look at that one other article. Here you go. This was another article, and I chose this one because the title here is gigantic. So I can do the same thing. I can click the Cite button. And then there's my citation. I'm going to go ahead and pop that into Word. I put it in Word. I'm going to highlight it and remove the formatting. Now I can do some editing. But first, because this title is so long that I'm going to want to double check this, because I don't trust this. I don't trust what the computer is giving me. It may very well be right, but it's worth a look. So I clicked PDF, and sure enough, this has a giant article. I just want to say, do not ever title an article this long, because it is just unreasonable. But we still do have some things to correct in this. For example, here we have the authors, and they look okay. Here we have the year, and it also looks okay. But when we look at this giant title, remember, the first word of the title, the first word of the subtitle, and proper nouns need to be capitalized. So, introducing a health information literacy competency map, that's fine. First word of the subtitle needs to be capitalized. Association of Medical Colleges Core and Trustable Professional Activities, that sounds like a proper noun. Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education Program Requirements, vaguely. And then the Association of College and Research Libraries Framework. So here's what's happening here. This person is capitalizing, or these authors are capitalizing, documents, the names of the documents, the titles. I don't know if I would do that. I might keep Association of Medical Libraries, but then I might make these lowercase. And I probably will do this throughout. Accreditation Council for Medical Education, Common Program Requirements, Association of College and Research Libraries Framework. So here, and then because I removed the citation or the formatting, I'm going to italicize that, and then we should be good to go. Here's the thing. One, if you ever come across an article this wild, with this wild of a title, because I kind of wish I had more time to do some research on this particular title, go ahead and ask a librarian for some help with this one, because this one is just unreasonably long. And you could do that, we talked about this just from the library homepage. And then right here during regular hours, you can go and chat with us. That goes until 7 o'clock at night. I'm recording this on Sunday, so if I really had this question, I wanted to be sure, I can click here and submit a question. And then just put in detail, or help with APA citation. How should I capitalize this title? And then put it in there. And then a librarian can get back to you. They can do some research and look it up. For 99% of the articles that you're going to have to edit, or that you're going to have to cite, they're going to be like this. They're going to be very simple. You're just going to need to remove the formatting, correct this, and move on. For some articles, you're going to have really complicated titles like this one. And it's okay to ask for help with that. You're not in this alone. But I wanted to give you the tools to be able to do the 99% of the citations that you need to do. So that's how we get the citations from the databases. Now, when you're actually sitting down to write an APA style paper, there's some things you should know. Your text should be double spaced, meaning, if you look at this is not double spaced, this is single spaced. So what you do is you select all, you right click, and then go into paragraph, and then do double spaced. And what that does is it spaces it out a little more. This is actually really great because A, it helps make your paper look longer, but 2, it's a whole lot easier to read, right? You might actually be able to make it halfway through this title before just thinking that's a complicated title. So you're going to want to make sure that your stuff, or that your text, all text in your paper, is double spaced, unless it's a block quote. You're going to want to have 1-inch margins. That's standard. You don't need to worry about that. You're going to want to make sure your font is Times New Roman and 12. APA 7 does let you do the Calibri font, but I'm old school, and I would suspect most of the professors are as well, and they would want Times New Roman. That's easy to do. Just highlight everything and go into Times New Roman 12, and there you go. And every page should have a header. So here's the thing. This is going to be different. Let me show you what I like to do. I like to go to the OWL APA website, just like we did before. And they have a sample paper. Now, your instructors will tell you if they want the professional paper or the student paper, and feel free to ask which they would like. I tend to like using the professional paper. I just think it's a little cleaner. I think it's a little easier to use. And I think it really sets you up for success with using this. I'm just downloading it so it looks better. And they changed this recently. What you're going to want to do is open up a new Word document. And I like to put these two things side by side. Just like that. And if you notice, on the first page of the sample paper here, I have a header. And that's right up top, right here. To get into this on your version of Word, you just got to double click the top up here, put on your cap locks, and go title of my paper, whatever the title is. And then they have the page number over here. So then you go to Insert, Header, and then Page Number, and then Page Number, and top right. And there you go. Easy peasy. Now you have your header, and the cool thing is this will automatically happen on all your pages. Next, you want to go down. I like to do 6 spaces, and then center align your text. Bold, because again we're matching what's going on here. And same idea. Bolded there, all good. Put an extra space. Now I'm putting my name. I put my department. And I put my institution. But I wrote this in caps, and it should not be in caps. There you go. Now, couple things. This isn't double spaced, so I got to do what I showed you before. Highlight everything and go into paragraph, and then spacing, double. There you go. Now I'm going to want to move this up a little bit, and boom. My font is the Calibri. Change that as well. And there you go. There's my title page. So what does Purdue Owl tell me to do after this? Well, if I scroll down, it has an abstract. We're going to talk about this in a sec, but not every paper needs to have an abstract. Most of the papers as a student that you're going to write do not have an abstract. Always double check with your professor. Nothing in this class will require you to have an abstract, but it's always a good thing to ask right up front to be clear. And then we have what is the start of the paper, and then we have the title on the first line. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to hit return until I get to my next page. And just like I promised, the title or the header is perfect there. I put the title of my paper there. And now I can start my paper. What I suggest you do is that you make one of these documents right here, just like this one. Follow the directions in this video and save this as your template, because then you don't need to make this happen every single time you need to write a paper. Then you just have a template to do your citations or to do your papers on. So I would save that. So, showed you how to do the header. When people write APA style papers, most of these papers have those 4 main sections. So, they're doing the title page, just like I showed you how to do. The professional papers are using an abstract. As an undergrad and a student, you sometimes generally don't need an abstract, so you should ask your professor. But if you did, that would be a major section. Then you have the main body of your paper. That starts where you put the title on the first line, like what we just did. And then you have a references section. So if we go back to that OWL example, we can go through the paper. They have subheadings here, which again, you probably should use in your papers. And you can use OWL to show you how to do the formatting on those. I'm also here if you have papers that need headings. But their example's long. If you notice, their references page has the word references at the end. And that's the other major section that you're going to need. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's put the word references right at the top here. And if you notice, it's bold here. So I'm going to bold it on this one as well. And now I can put my citations in. Well, I just wrote some citations, didn't I? I just corrected them. Here they are. So I'm going to pop these over into the other document I just did. And if you notice, there's two things that are kind of wrong with my document here. They've alphabetized their reference list. And that's something that has to happen. All the references need to be alphabetized. So I'm going to take the one that should be moved up and move it up. The other thing to notice is these are indented differently than mine. Now, please, do not try to tab this over. It will not work. I've seen people do things like hit the space bar and then do all sorts of weird things with these. There's an easy way to do this. You just highlight it, and then right up top, there's a ruler. And you move it over to the 1/2 inch mark from the little bottom square right there. And then you move the top triangle back. And now it's going to do it correctly. The next citation, if I just hit delete to make it go attached, does it all by itself. All I did was hit delete to delete those extra spaces, put it right next to there, and then I hit return, and there we go. Also made my hyperlink blue, which looks like it should be. And that's it. And then if you use this as a template, as you write your papers, you have all of this formatted correctly. And you can move this as, like, you can edit these and then get your right formatting. So that's what an APA style paper looks like. That's how you go into it to format them in a very general sense. Making one of these would do really good things for you, as it gives you the template to use to move forward with. So I promise you, we're rounding this one out. I know we're a little long. I know we're talking about super complicated, detailed things. We're almost there. What we need to talk about is the annotated bibliography. So this is a unique version of an APA style paper. And this is what you're going to need to submit for this class at the end of next week. What I need you to do is go out and find 5 sources on a single topic. I don't really care what that topic is. So, pro tip, if you have a paper due in another class in like 2 to 3 weeks, give me an annotated bib on that class's topic. What are you writing a paper on? Make an annotated bib and share it with me, and then I can look at it, and then I can use it for this class, right? We can use those sources in that paper for the annotated bib, and we can use the topic so you're not researching 2 different topics at the same time. And then we can look at the citations and make sure they're correct. So the 5 sources you need to give me need to come from an academic book, a book chapter, an article, a government or reputable website. I strongly prefer that you use scholarly articles. You can go and find them on the library's website. The library's website will help cite them for you. So then you just need to do what I did a moment ago with editing those citations. Don't use things that you find from Google or news sources or for-profit organizations or things that are overly biased. I'm looking for you to use those scholarly, peer-reviewed kind of sources. Your annotated bibliography should have the title page, just like what we did 2 minutes ago. It should have a citation listed, so just like those citations. And then it should also have an annotation. So here's the thing. An annotation is not like an abstract. You should not just copy and paste the abstract from the article. That is actually plagiarism. What you need to do is write 5 sentences on the article. You need to look over the article, read it, skim it, do what you need to do, but then be able to write 5 sentences about the article. And I need you to be critical. I need you to tell me who wrote it, where do they work, do they have any biases, is the article good, is it bad? 5 sentences where you're talking about the credibility of it and you're talking about the results and what did the article find. So I've put some examples of annotated, or I put one example of an annotated bib in D2L. It is literally an annotated bib example right here. Much like I just showed you, same idea where I have the header where I have the title, I have all of that. I've adapted the citations from Columbia colleges, but you don't need to do this or have an annotated or have an author's note. And then here I have my annotation. Two things to point out. I have my citation, and if you notice, it's indented correctly, but then I have it indented a little bit more right here. That's easy to do with that little ruler. All you would need to do is move the ruler one little notch over more. All this does is it visually represents that this is an annotation. That here is a citation, it's indented correctly, and then here is the annotation. And then the annotation is pretty simple. It's written in third person. It's saying the study had a sample of this. The participants did this. It found that this happened. It's a fairly straightforward way to do an annotation. All I need is 5 sentences about the article that you chose. So, to demo, I showed you how to do that. Now, this assignment that's due, the grading on this is fairly straightforward. I'm going to look at each source, and I'm going to look at the annotation for the source and the citation for the source. And then I have a little bit of a scale here. What I suggest you do is go out there this week, find the articles, get the citations together, put them in a template, and then send that to me. Just email that to me, and I'll put my email address in this week's announcement. Just so I can look it over to say, hey, good citations or not good citations, and then give you feedback. Because I want to make sure that you're comfortable moving through this with the citations that you're writing. So the assignment is due on the 25th, so we have some time. We've got 2 weeks. If you want to send me that draft, go ahead. Use articles, use book chapters, use reputable sources. Strongly recommend that you use scholarly articles, so then the library databases are giving you the citations for you to edit. The topic is up to you, but if you have a paper due in another class, I suggest you use that same topic, because then that allows you to make the most of your research time. If you don't have a paper due in another class, you could do something on like social media or wellness or fake news or college success or anything that really interests you that would have some scholarly material available. And with that, there is our lesson. We have been through the first part of APA. Next week is going to be a little bit lighter. We are not going to cover as heavy of a topic, nor will it take as long. But we're going to talk about the general style of writing in APA. So I hope you all have a great week back from spring break. Go ahead and find those articles, get the draft ready, and send them to me. Thank you, and have a great week.